Hi everyone, we are the group 2 and today we are going to talk about globalization and multicultural literacy. So our objective for today is to explain the importance of globalization and multicultural literacy and to elaborate citizenship and secularism, integration and equality relating to globalization and multiculturalism. So first, let's talk about globalization. So what is globalization? It is the process of integration and interaction among the people from the different countries, different companies, and different nations. So because of globalization, we're able to communicate with the other people from the different countries. Because also of the rising technology. So technology has been the principal driver of globalization and it allows us to communicate other people from the different countries immediately and easily. So, through globalization, we're able to access new culture. We're able to import and export our goods. So, aside from that, let's talk about the advantages of globalization. First is access to new culture. So, as we socialize and interact more and more people, we become diverse. We're able to access the new culture. We're able to learn from the different people that we interact. We'll learn from their ways of living, their language use, their beliefs, and even their religions. Next is the spread of knowledge. So as we interact more and more people, we're learning from them. And as well as they are also learning from us. So that's globalization. The next advantage of globalization is that it opens more employment opportunities. So because of globalization, it opened doors for many Filipino people, especially the OFW here from the Philippines. So they opened doors to provide a better job opportunities because they provide a better paying jobs and high rate salaries. So that's advantage of globalization. Next, it develop our economy. So how does it develop our economy? We're able to trade products. We import and export our goods. So we have exchange products from the different countries. So that's advantages of globalization. However, let's talk about disadvantage of globalization. So first is local job loss. So there is a local job loss since most of the Filipino people, especially professionals, they prefer to go to the other countries because the other countries provides a better paying job. So wala na yung mabiling diri sa locally diri sa Philippines because they prefer to work in the abroad. So that's disadvantage of globalization. Next, it encouraged disease transfer, so such as COVID-19. So as we interact more and more people, so we have fellow countrymen from the Philippines and they went to the other countries and they interact people with disease and as they go back to the Philippines and then the spread of virus na dayon. So, muna na siya disadvantage of globalization. Next, it negatively impact our environment. So, as the technology grows rapidly, so we're able to build more infrastructure because we're developing our country. But because of that, we're also destroying our environment. As we build more and more buildings, we're also cutting more and more trees. So that's disadvantage of globalization. Next, erosion of local culture. So as we interact more and more people, so we become diverse. We openly accept more cultures. Ni accept na to diri kaninga culture from the China, from the Japan, from the other countries. And then the disadvantage of that is kanang we're slowly forgetting our own culture, and that's disadvantage of globalization. So next, let's talk about global literacy. It is about the understanding of how world is organized and connected. So we as an individual, if we understand that how we are being connected to the other people, how we are being connected to the people from the other countries, we know what is going on in the world that we're living, and we are already considered as a globally literate person. Next, global competence. So because of global competence, uh, you are considered as a globally competent individual if you're able to respect cultural differences. If you're able to know the differences that you have between the other people, if you respect their perspectives, then you are already considered as globally competent individual. Aside from that, you're a globally competent person if you possess the ability of you have critical thinking skills, you have comparative skills, and you also have better problem solving skills. So if you have those abilities, then you're already considered as a globally competent individual. So now let's talk about the dimension of global competence.
Dimensions of global competence implication to education. So, education for global competence is founded on the ideas of the different models of global education, such as intercultural education, global citizenship education, and education for democratic citizenship. So, dimensions of global competence implication to education. There are different models of global education, such as intellectual education, global citizenship, education, and education for democratic citizenship. So, according to global citizenship education, the aim of global education is to empower learners of all ages to assume active roles both locally and globally in the building more peaceful, tolerant, inclusive, and secure societies. Despite the differences in focuses and scope, these models share a common goal of promoting students' understanding of the world and empower them to express their views and participate in the society. So, the purpose of education is no longer merely to produce individuals capable of reading and writing arithmetic, but rather its central role is to help people live in fair, safe, moderate, and inclusive societies. So according to PESA, proposes a new perspective on definition and assessment of global competence that will help policymakers and school leaders create learning resources and curricula that integrate global competence as a multifaceted cognitive, social, emotional, and civic learning goal. So global citizenship emerged as a concept, practice, and term to capture a wide range of ideas related to moral sensitivities and environmental responsibilities and local action. So, according to United Nations, global citizenship education provides the skills, values, and behaviors that students need to meet in the intellectual challenges of 21st century, which include climate change, conflict, poverty, issues of equality, and sustainability. So, education for global citizenship also gives learners the competence and opportunities to benefit from the rights and fulfill their obligation in order to encourage the building of better future for all. So, education for global citizenship includes many different fields, such as human rights education, peace education, and education for international understanding, which are aligned with the goals of education for development. There are four dimensions of global competence implication to education. So the dimension one is examine issues of local, global, and cultural significance. So this refers to the ability to combine knowledge about the world with critical reasoning whenever people form their own opinions about a global issue. Globally competent students can draw on combine the disciplinary knowledge and modes of thinking required in school to ask questions, analyze data and arguments, explain phenomena, and develop a position regarding the local or global or cultural issues. So they can also access, analyze, and critically evaluate messages delivered through the media and can create new media content. So especially in the digital age where finding information is just at the tip of our fingers, we need to evaluate the sources of information if it's valid. So not everything in the social media is or the internet is valid or accurate. So as students, we should evaluate the sources of information for we for being able to get our right information. Dimension 2. Understand and appreciate the perspective and worldviews of others. So it means considering the different opinions or view of points of others. As an individual, required knowledge about other cultures, histories, values, communication styles, belief, and practices. They begin to recognize that their perspective and behaviors are shaped by many influences, that they are not always fully aware of this influence, and that the others have views of the world that are profoundly different from their own. So, engaging with different perspectives and worldviews requires individual to examine the origins and implication of others and their own assumption. This in turn implies a respect or an interest in the people who acknowledge and appreciate the qualities that distinguish individuals from one another, are less likely to tolerate acts of injustice in their daily interaction. So, on the other hand, people who fail to develop this competence are considerably more likely to internalize stereotypes, prejudice, and about those who are different. So, in decision making, for instance, there are no monopoly. It should be shared decision by everybody. Just like being a leader, I need to listen also to the voice of my students and try to evaluate and think of possible solution to the problem. So the dimension 3 is engage in open, appropriate, and effective interaction across cultures. So students who are proficient in this competence understand cultural norms, society expectation, rules in the society. So, interactive styles and degrees of formality in the cultural context and can adapt their behavior and communication to suit every situation. So, they appreciate the importance of respectful dialogue, strive to understand others, and make an effort to include marginalized groups. So, effective communication requires being able to express oneself clearly, confidently, and without anger. So, even when they are expressing a fundamental agreement. Fourth dimension is take action for collective well-being and sustainable development. This dimension aims to equip learners of all ages with values, knowledge, and skills that instill respect for sustainability and that empower learners to be responsible global citizens. This gives the learners the competence and opportunities to realize their rights and obligation to promote a better world and better future for all.
Multicultural literacy. So there's plenty of definition about multicultural literacy, but according to Banks and Boat, it consists of the skills and ability to identify the creators of knowledge and interest, to reveal the assumption of knowledge, to view from diverse ethnic and cultural perspective, and to use the knowledge to guide action that will create a humane and just world. So inside the classroom, we have different kinds of students, which means they also have different beliefs or practices. For example, in religion, some students are Roman Catholic, some are Muslims, and so on. So what a teacher can do is that we need to be sensitive about their differences. So that is why it is important, or it is needed talaga, to have skills and ability to identify the creators of knowledge. So multicultural literacy also allows us to broaden our understanding or knowledge when it comes to diversity. And as a future educator, it is our task or goal to educate our children or students to create a humane and just world. So what are the importance of multicultural literacy? So first is that understanding and consideration of the diverse racial and cultural views to attain united, peaceful, and progressive community. So do you believe that we'll be able to attain a united, peaceful, and progressive community if we don't have understanding and consideration about the different race and cultural views? So, it is impossible. It is impossible talaga, believe me or not. So, multicultural literacy offers us a great lesson, not only for our community, but also for ourselves. Second, it brings attention to diversity, equity, and social justice to foster cultural awareness by addressing difficult issues like discrimination and oppression towards other ethnicities. So a multicultural illiterate person loves to discriminate and serve injustices or unjust treatment towards other ethnicities or culture. So that is why this multicultural literacy allows us to become attentive and be aware when it comes to diversity, equity, and social justice. Also, it helps us to eliminate discrimination and oppression. How to promote multicultural literacy? So, paano nga ba? So, it is the use of multicultural literature in school. So, since multicultural literature is a tool to open our students' minds to help stimulate an understanding of diversity in the classroom, it helps them to build an understanding and respect for people from a different culture or group. So, in this regard, there are 7 ways to embrace multiculturalism in the classroom. So, I will not explain it further since it is understandable. So, the 7 ways are: first, celebrate different cultural festivals. Attempt to learn a bit more about the different backgrounds of pupils in your class. Include a variety of books in your classroom or book collection. Hold a food fair to celebrate different dishes from around the world. Set presentation projects for students in culture or nation. Host a culture day. And lastly, holds events with guests and motivational speakers from different backgrounds. So, how are multicultural and global literacy interconnected? So, every classroom contains students of different race, religion, and cultural groups. Students embrace diverse behaviors, cultural values, patterns of practice, and communication, yet they all share one commonality, and that is their educational opportunity. So inside the classroom, we have different kinds of students. So it is indeed impossible to have that one kind of students, especially if we are in the remote area. So as a future 21st educator, we need to be more sensitive and that be aware of their practices and beliefs. And we should treat them equally and with respect, since again what they have in common is their education. And remember always, that is how important unity in diversity. So I want to end my topic with a saying: by making small changes within the classroom, it can create a big change globally.
And now let us proceed to the integration. Integration is described as one that connects different areas of study by cutting across subject matter lines and emphasizing unifying concepts. Integration focuses on making connections for students, allowing them to engage in relevant, meaningful activities that can connect them to real life. So when we say integration, it is a connection or it is a unity and engagement of people. In globalization, integration will happen always, especially in our global economy, because we're in globalization. Integration will serve as a bridge connection in other countries, where our cultures will share also. Integration ensures that all systems work together and in harmony to increase productivity and data consistency. In addition, it aims to resolve the complexity associated with increased communication between systems, since they provide a reduction in the impacts of changes that these systems may have. So integration, it is very important because it is for to ensure that those countries who connected each other with agreement will work together and also in harmony. Integration, it is aims to resolve many problems, which is the changes of the systems. Global economic integration, measuring the impacts of globalization on individual economics, people, companies, and economies, are more integrated and interconnected than ever before. This help facilitates connection which lead to specialization, innovation, and economic progress. So to have economic progress, integration is a way to connect and facilitate the people, companies, and economies of each countries to become more interconnected and more integrated each other, which is because of their connection, economies will have benefit from the knowledge and experience of others, and they learn how to replicate or adapt ideas for their own needs. And lastly, integration in multiculturalism. Integration is open to multiculturalism because it is based on the idea of a liberal state that demands from its immigrants nothing more than learning and accepting the principles of constitutions. In that sense, unlike assimilation, integration does not get in the values, which is a business. So if you are immigrants or came from other country, or we say a foreigner, you must respect their culture, especially their language, and you must to try to know and practice their principles, and you should to follow their principle also.
Good morning, everyone. My topic for today is about equality. Equality means the state of being equal. It's one of the ideals a democratic society, and so the fight to attain different kinds of equality like racial equality, gender equality, or equality of opportunity between rich and poor is often associated with progress toward that ideal of everyone being truly equal. So equality, from the root word equal, it means pagkakapantay-pantay. There are two different equality that wants the people to fight, especially in a democratic country like in the Philippines. So, the two examples of equality is the equality in globalization and equality in multiculturalism. Itong dalawang type of equality, ito ang pinakamalaking issue nowadays that until now, the others want to fight na makuha pa din nila ang equality na hinahangad nila. First is equality in globalization. Globalization has the potential to contribute to greater gender equality. However, in the sense of public policy, globalization alone cannot end gender inequality despite significant increases in agency and in access to economic opportunities for many women in many countries. Large gender gaps remain in some areas. So, we all know that globalization has made the world. Since globalization, maraming products na ang na-distribute all over the world. That's why we can communicate to others and even in the other country. The globalization has a big potential para ma-end ang gender inequality. But tungod kay walay gender policy nga ginapa-implement ang kaning globalization, nga ginaingon nila is dili siya maka-end sa gender inequality. So, for example, of gender inequality, for example, is sa isa ka company, dili pwedeng ma-promote ang babae kay dapat lalaki gyud ang mahimong CEO sa company. So mao siya ang gender inequality. Ang gender equality dayon kay dili siya ga matter or mag-base sa gender sa isa ka person, but magtan-aw na siya sa potential sa isa ka person biskan babae pa na siya or lalaki sa pagpili kung kinsa ang next CEO. Tungod pud aning globalization, daghan pud matagaan opportunity para i-fight ang ilang right, like for example karon kay naanay CEO nga mga babae because they fight for their rights and they have the quality not because of their gender, but then again globalization, ang kaning globalization dako siya ma-impact sa mga tao nga kanang ma-equal na ang opportunity, but then tungod kay walay policy nga ginapa-implement para sa aning globalization is dili gihapon siya maka-end, but then again maka-listen siya since matagaan opportunity ang uban, but dili gihapon siya sa tanan, dili siya equal. Equality and multiculturalism. So, equality requires equal treatment to those who are equal in relevant respects. What respects are relevant, what responses they deserve, and what constitutes equal treatment cannot be determined in transcultural or transculturally neutral terms. So now let's move on to the equality in multiculturalism. multiculturalism. So the equality in multiculturalism talks about being equal in terms of respect or treatment or an opportunities na deserve sa isa ka tao even if they belong to any culture. Hindi nagmamatter sa ilang culture ang respect or treatment na kanilang makukuha. And that is being multiculturally equal. Like for example, kanina kung sa gender equality, nag-talk sila sa pag-fight about sa gender, ito ay ang kanilang pinalalaban sa equality in multiculturalism is ang mabigyan sila ng equal na treatment, respect, or opportunity na hindi pagbabasihan kung saan or ano ang kanilang kultura. Yung walang discrimination but nagbe-base sila sa quality sa isa ka person. Importance. So, importance. Equality is about being ensuring that every individual has an equal opportunity to make the most of their lives and talents. It is also the belief that no one should have poor life changes because of the way they were born, where they come from, what they believe, or whether they have disability. So the importance of equality is that it makes the most out of people regardless of their race, regardless of their philosophies in life, regardless of their cultural background, regardless of how they talk, regardless of how they were born. It is very important because equality na deserve nila na mabigyan din sila is kana mas mabuhat or mas mapush nila ilang potential. Like for example, if katong CEO ganina sa isa ka company, makamotivate siya, mamotivate for example, ang babae, ma-promote siya as manager, mas ma-motivate siya nga mag-work hard sa iyang work tungod kay gi-acknowledge ang iyang quality of work, gi-acknowledge ang iyang skills sa iyang work. But if dili i-recognize ang iyang achievement, ang iyang quality tungod lagi, for example, tungod kay babae siya, ingana wala jud bitaw reason nga ma-motivate siya sa iyang work. So that's it. That's why it's very important nga maka-join equality, especially in gender equality or equality in multiculturalism. Thank you.
Citizenship and secularism. So what is citizenship? A citizen is a participatory member of a political community. Citizenship is gained by meeting the legal requirements of a national, state, or local government. A nation grants certain rights and privileges to its citizens. So, for example, citizenship is the status of being a citizen along with the rights, duties, and privileges of being a citizen. So, for example, citizenship is someone being born in the United States and having access to all the same freedoms and rights as those already living in the US. The importance of citizenship. So in its strictest sense, citizenship is a legal status that means a person has a right to live in a state, and that state cannot refuse them entry or deport them. So this legal status may be conferred at birth or in some states obtained through naturalization. So for example, in order to be a citizen in a state, it needs to process legally. So the authorities on that state cannot easily deport or entry you because you are already one of them. You have the same rights and the same freedom. So this legal status grant at birth or naturalization the admittance of a foreigner to the citizenship of a country. Citizenship in relation to globalization and multiculturalism. With the rise of globalization, the concept of citizenship as a form of membership and identity in one nation-state has changed. The increase in the number of countries allowing dual citizenship and non-citizen rights has made the acquisition of citizenship less pressing. So, for example of this is the On the Wings of Love movie by J. Dean or James Reid and Nadine Lustre. Nadine Lustre played Leia. Leia is a simple girl with an American dream, and Clark or James Reid a boy living his American life, who are forced to marry in order to legally stay and continue working in the United States. Multicultural citizenship is the idea that ethnic, racial, gender, and other minoritized groups can maintain significant aspects of their community cultures and values and yet freely participate in the national civic culture and community. So, for example of this is that the Manubo, they can maintain significant aspects of their community cultures, just like Manubo carried out rituals and tribal celebrations for the Magbabaya or the Creator. Yet, they also participate in the national civic culture, such elections, local government activities, and etc.
So, what is circularism? Circularism is most commonly defined as a separation of religion from civic affairs in the state and may be broadened to a similar position, seeking to remove or to minimize the role of religion in public spheres. So, from the word circular, things are not religious. It is not concerned with religion or the church. So, for example, kanang naay activity sa school, dili siya connected sa kanang religion or so the importance of circularism aspect of the circularism of religion from state power. This is important for a country to function democratically. Circularism term means separation of religion from political, economic, social, and cultural aspects of life. Those religion is only a purely personal matter. So, not having connection with religion, indifference to or rejection or exclusion of religion and religious consideration. So, example sa katong subject ni Sir Jan sa international cuisine, ang ihang schedule sa 3AX kay Friday 5 to 8. So, as Adventist, murag consider na nasa mo nga Sabbath day na jud. So, ihangyo yun ko ni Sir nga, Sir, pwede ka nang mobalhin kog 3A kay ang schedule sa 3A kay Tuesday 1 to 4. So, okay ra jud. So, mao to may gani kay ni isugot ra pud to si Sir. So, okay, next. Circularism and globalization of multiculturalism. Economic and political changes of globalization carries and often associated with the process of sustained circularization and leasing of market forms of change demographic that can be significantly determine existing arrangement involving religion, state, and society. So, circularism is neutrality towards all religion. Dapat ang religious belief should not influence political and governmental issues or decision. Pero because of globalization and klase-klase nga mga culture around the world, possible nga maapektuhan ang religion or religious belief sa mga tao. Pero if baliktaron na to ang situation, ang political related issue dili maapektuhan sa religion.